Do you really believe you are free when you walk through your city? At this very moment in Europe, there are governments using artificial intelligence to predict your moves, tracking every euro you spend, and reading your private chats, even those protected by end-to-end encryption. Today, we take you inside the 10 countries that have turned security into near-total control. Warning: we are not here to condemn these nations. We know that certain reforms were necessary for our safety, but that is exactly the point. We must also be aware of the other side of the coin and ask ourselves, are all these controls necessary, or have we gone too far? Many will say, if you're not doing anything wrong, why worry? But is it really that simple? Stay until the end, because we will reveal the true heart of the problem that affects us all. Welcome to Amazing Europe. Number 1. Spain. Spain is a living laboratory of how technology can be used to make the state work better, of course with some downsides. For example, when the government realised that the shadow economy was worth around 17% of GDP, it decided it was time to tackle the problem. To flush out tax evaders, the revenue agency used a big data system that processes information from hundreds of different sources, including the location of your smartphone. Using anonymous phone metadata from operators, they can calculate with surgical precision whether you have spent more than 183 days abroad, thereby exposing people who claim to live in London or Dubai but actually spend most of their time in Spain. And to cripple money laundering, no cash transactions above 1,000 euros between professionals. The message is clear: every euro must leave a digital trail. The downside? The end of financial privacy. But when you have such powerful tools in your hands, the temptation to use them for other purposes becomes strong. And this is where the 2022 Catalan Gate comes in. Citizen Lab discovered that more than 60 phones belonging to Catalan independence leaders, lawyers, and even family members had been infected with Pegasus, the spyware that turns your phone into a covert listening device. The Spanish intelligence services admitted to monitoring 18 of those targets with judges' authorization, saying they did it to defend territorial integrity. In the other 40 cases, however, there is no clarity, and the uncomfortable question left hanging is this: in a democracy, when does using digital weapons of war to settle internal political disputes go too far? Number 2. Denmark. Denmark is often painted as the paradise of social trust, one of the happiest countries in the world. But beneath this perfect surface lies a very different reality. Copenhagen has turned its geography into a global bargaining chip. Everything revolves around the submarine fibre optic cables that link Northern Europe and run right beneath Danish waters. The government understood that those cables are a goldmine for intelligence and made a clear strategic choice: become America's ear in Europe. The Operation Dunhammer scandal revealed that Danish intelligence literally opened their doors to the US NSA, allowing them to physically tap into these cables to spy on leaders from Germany, France, Sweden and Norway, including Angela Merkel. And for Danish citizens? No leniency. The government enforces one of the most stubborn data retention laws in Europe. Even though the Court of Justice of the EU ruled that indiscriminate retention of phone and internet data for all citizens is illegal, Denmark stubbornly continues to log it. The Ministry of Justice openly defies European courts, arguing that without blanket monitoring of data traffic, the police would be blind to crime. The Danish compromise may be the most cynical of all. Denmark sacrificed part of its own privacy and European trust to remain a strategic US partner. The obvious question is, what is national sovereignty really worth if you've already handed the backdoor key to someone else? Number 3. Italy. In Italy, the protection of privacy often collides with an indisputable imperative: the fight against the mafia. Under this shield, the country has developed one of the most pervasive systems of judicial surveillance in the West. The first pillar is data retention. While Europe debates time limits, Italy requires providers to store calls and data traffic for up to 6 years for serious crimes, a measure the judiciary deems absolutely vital, and which has allowed prosecutors to convict mafia clans by reconstructing contacts going back years. The downside, however, is technical and undeniable. To enable these investigations, providers are obliged to keep enormous historical archives of everyone's connections, making the population's digital history available to authorities for a very long time. In 2024, the Piracy Shield was added. To protect broadcasters' TV rights for football, a platform can block IP addresses within 30 minutes of a report, without prior judicial review. An administrative automaticity designed for speed, it has nevertheless raised technical criticisms for the risk of mistakenly knocking offline legitimate services unrelated to piracy. Finally, Italy makes significant use of so-called state Trojans, software that allows investigators to access mobile devices. With recent legislation, their use has become an established practice for complex investigations into corruption and crime. The choice has been made: total digital memory in exchange for security. No connection forgotten, no data deleted. Number 4. Poland. Poland shows us what happens when surveillance tools are deeply integrated into political struggle and border control. Here, the central issue is not only national security, but the erosion of democratic oversight over police operations. The first warning sign arrived in 2016 with the so-called surveillance law. This rule granted law enforcement and intelligence extraordinary powers. Direct access to citizens' metadata, who you call, which sites you visit and where you are, without the need to obtain a prior judicial warrant. The justification was anti-terror efficiency, the argument being that the police must be able to act quickly. The result, however, is that the judicial filter that should protect citizens from abuse was removed for everyday data access. But the availability of these technologies led to worrying abuses. Recent investigations uncovered what has been called the Polish Watergate, the use of the military spyware Pegasus against prominent opposition figures. During decisive electoral campaigns, rival politicians' phones were hacked not to thwart attacks, but to extract private messages later used to discredit them on public media. Finally, attention turns to the eastern border. To manage the migration crisis and tensions with Belarus, Warsaw erected a high-tech barrier equipped with seismic and thermal sensors. This defensive project was accompanied by the creation of exclusion zones closed to journalists and NGOs, effectively producing areas of the country where surveillance is total but independent witnesses do not exist. Number 5. Russia. Russia represents a fundamental case study for understanding the future of digital surveillance, a system where technology and state power merge without filters or mediation. At the center is SORM, a mechanism that overturns Western rules on privacy. Forget formal requests, judicial authorizations, and waiting times. Every telecom operator must install hardware that connects their servers directly to FSB terminals. The result is that agents gain real-time access to calls, messages, and data traffic without asking anyone's permission. Then there is the issue of the sovereign internet. Deep inspection devices at network nodes allow the state not only to filter unwanted content, but also, when necessary, to isolate the Russian internet completely from the rest of the world, ensuring total national control in any crisis scenario. And then there is Moscow, transformed into a gigantic machine of sight. More than 200,000 cameras with facial recognition scour every corner of the capital. The numbers are clear. Car thefts have collapsed. Crimes are solved by the thousands. Suspects are identified in seconds. But there is a dark flip side. The same algorithms that catch thieves also track dissidents, map protests, and erase anonymity from the streets. Walking in Moscow means being constantly recognized, constantly tracked. Technology has made Moscow undeniably safer and investigations immediate, but the price is boundless power. And here is the question that reveals the complexity of the situation: security or privacy? Which is your priority? Are the two destined to remain forever opposed? Write your opinion in the comments. Number 6. Germany. Germany is probably the biggest shock in this ranking. Historically seen as a stronghold of privacy in memory of the Stasi, Berlin has in recent years made a quiet but radical turn, becoming Europe's leader in digital surveillance. The breaking point was the legalization of state Trojans. Law enforcement complained about going dark, the inability to read chats protected by encryption on WhatsApp or Signal. The solution? Authorize the federal police to legally hack devices. The state malware infects the phone and reads messages directly on the screen, before encryption or after decryption, thus bypassing end-to-end protection. The compromise is heavy. To preserve this capability, the state has an interest in leaving security holes open in software, making all devices more vulnerable. But Germany also wants to predict. Several Länder, such as Hesse and Bavaria, have adopted predictive policing software provided by Palantir. These systems aggregate vast amounts of data, weaving a web of contacts that links suspects and ordinary citizens into a single investigative network. Although the Constitutional Court struck down some practices as disproportionate, politicians are pushing to rewrite the laws. In Bavaria, the concept was taken to the extreme with the imminent danger law, which allows police to act not only when a crime has been committed, but when it is suspected that one might occur. Germany now stands at a crucial crossroads. These technologies are introducing a logic of algorithmic prevention, where the risk is that attention shifts from acts actually committed to behaviours software deems potentially dangerous, challenging the country's historic constitutional limits. Number 7. Hungary. In Hungary, surveillance does not arise from chaos, but from an extremely structured legal framework that prioritises rapid action by the executive. The country often operates under a legal regime called the state of danger, renewed repeatedly over the years to manage different crises. This setup allows the government to legislate by decree, speeding up security procedures in a way unthinkable in other European parliaments. It is within this context of defending sovereignty that the Pegasus case fits. International technical analyses found traces of the military spyware on the phones of investigative journalists and owners of independent media. The government has not denied using the technology, but has insisted that every operation was carried out in full compliance with Hungarian law. And that is the focal point. In Hungary, the definitions of national security are broad enough to legally permit monitoring figures who in other countries would be considered untouchable. But control does not stop at sensitive cases. It affects anyone who sets foot in the country. With the visa system, Budapest has automated a monitoring practice that is spreading across Europe, making it relentless. Every hotel and guest house is required to digitally scan guest documents and send them to a central police server. It is not an isolated exception, but confirmation of a continental trend. The state wants to know exactly where every single person sleeps each night. A model of absolute public order that leaves open the question: does any private space still exist even on holiday, where the authorities cannot enter? Number 8. Greece. Greece marks the point of no return in our ranking. If elsewhere, surveillance is a matter of bureaucracy or taxes, in Athens, it has taken on the contours of a political espionage thriller worthy of the darkest regimes. The world calls it Predator Gate. Investigations revealed that key figures of Greek democracy, such as investigative journalist Thanasis Koukakis and opposition leader Nikos Androulakis, were targeted by Predator, a military-grade spyware capable of turning a smartphone into a total bug. The chilling coincidence is that those same people were, at the same time, under legal interception by the intelligence services, an agency that by law reports directly to the Prime Minister's office. Although the Prime Minister denied any personal involvement, the scandal was severe enough to force the intelligence chiefs and his own right-hand man to resign. In any case, the lesson is clear. The state holds the keys to enter your private life and is not afraid to use them against internal enemies. But do not think this concerns only politicians. The numbers point to systemic surveillance. In 2021 alone, more than 15,000 interception orders were issued for national security. A frightening figure for a country of 10 million people, suggesting a cavalier use of espionage far beyond hunting terrorists. And to complete the circle of impunity, the government changed the rules of the game while the match was still on. With a 2021 amendment, the Data Protection Authority was banned from informing citizens that they had been spied on, even after investigations concluded and even if no crime had been committed. In Greece, if Big Brother listens to you, by law you no longer even have the right to know it. Number 9. France. France is the European laboratory for the surveillance of the future. Here, the trauma of terrorist attacks pushed the state to cross a boundary Europe had never crossed before, entrusting security to artificial intelligence. The turning point was the 2024 Olympics. With Article 7 of the Olympic law, France became the first nation in the Union to legalise algorithmic video surveillance. Cameras no longer simply record. They are linked to software that analyses crowd movements in real time to detect anomalous behaviour. The stated goal is to prevent panic or attacks, but the result is that public space has become an environment where an algorithm constantly judges whether the way we walk or gather is normal or suspicious. At the same time, France has centralised the nation's biological identity. The TESS database now holds biometric data, facial photos and fingerprints, for 60 million citizens in one massive archive. Security experts have severely criticised this choice. Creating a single honeypot containing the identity of an entire people is an open invitation to foreign state hackers. Finally, invisible surveillance. Since 2015, internet providers have been required to install government black boxes on their networks. These devices scan web traffic metadata for complex patterns that could indicate a terrorist threat. France poses the toughest question of all: to feel protected from lone wolves. Are we willing to accept an automated pre-crime system where a machine decides who deserves investigation based on secret mathematical calculations? Before revealing the 10th, and perhaps most unsettling, country and exposing the real problem behind this situation, if you found this video informative, we kindly ask you to support our project with a like, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you don't miss our new videos. And we also remind you of our new channel, America vs. Europe, where we rank all European countries, the United States and Canada according to different factors. Number 10. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom could top this ranking because it is the only country that has combined physical, digital, and economic surveillance into a single panopticon. Physically, London is the world capital of monitoring, with one camera for every 10 residents and police vans scanning faces along shopping streets. Urban anonymity is dead. Legally, the Snoopers Charter forces providers to retain every citizen's web history for a year, making our browsing habits accessible to dozens of state bodies without a warrant. And with the Online Safety Act, the government threatens to scan private messages on WhatsApp and Signal, breaking the encryption that protects us. Yet, despite this surveillance, the country, especially England, still has a significant crime rate. But the final blow to freedom came with the Starmer government's proposal on digital identity. The measure provides that a digital ID will become mandatory to exercise the right to work. The Prime Minister's phrase, "You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom without a digital ID," sparked mass protests and petitions with millions of signatures. Critics warn that if the right to earn a living depends on a centralised digital permission, the state will have acquired the power to switch off a citizen's economic existence with a single click. London offers the ultimate bargain: total transparency in exchange for security, and not even very effective security. But when the government's eye is everywhere, on the street, in chats, and in the future, even on your employment contract, do you feel safer, or just like a model prisoner in an open-air jail? And this question leads us to the real question we must ask ourselves. If we look closely at these 10 countries, we notice they are all linked by 3 invisible red threads. The first is the cost of calm. From the United Kingdom to Russia, the demand for order and protection has been so strong that we have normalised the idea of living under a magnifying glass, allowing technology to filter everyone's life in order to intercept the threats of a few. The second is the logic of traceability. In Spain and Italy, it was decided that the only effective way to fight the shadow economy is to illuminate every transaction. Cash and anonymity have been sacrificed on the altar of fiscal efficiency, creating a system where honesty is proven only through data. The third is the tool dilemma. As seen in Greece or Hungary, when a government possesses digital weapons capable of seeing everything, the temptation to use them grows strong. Software designed to stop very serious threats therefore risks being used to control dissent or manage internal crises, silently shifting the boundary of what is acceptable in a democracy. Of course, we must not be naive. We know full well that terrorism, mafias, and online crime are real threats. Many of these technologies have saved lives and solved seemingly impossible cases. No one wants to return to a defenseless world, but it is precisely here, in this grey zone, that the fundamental question of our time lies. These systems were born for emergencies, but they have become the norm. Are we ready to accept a new social contract where the only way to be considered an honest citizen is to become completely transparent, permanently renouncing the right not to be watched? What is the limit beyond which security becomes a gilded cage? The answer does not belong to governments, nor to technology. It belongs to us. Tell us your view in the comments. And since we have talked several times about the problem of tracking cash, if you want a more complete picture of the situation, we recommend watching this video, where we reveal the 10 European countries with the largest hidden economies. That's all for this video. See you next time.